I didn't think temporary could turn into something that felt permanent. Ryan said it the night he showed up with 2 suitcases and a taped-up box, standing in my doorway like everything he owned could fit inside it. "It's just temporary," he said. "Don't make it weird." I believed him. That was 6 months ago. Now it's 2:13 a.m., and I'm standing in my kitchen, listening to him in the living room, laughing softly in a way I haven't heard in months. Not the broken version of him I let move in. Not the man trying to get back on his feet. This voice is different. Calm, easy. Like he belongs here. I freeze when I hear my name. "Emily's just sensitive," he says. Casual? Dismissive. She overreacts to everything. I'm handling it. My grip tightens on the counter. I don't move. I just listen. Then, I've already switched most of the mail over. It's basically established now. Worst case, I just say I've been living here full-time since the divorce. A pause. A quiet laugh. No, she doesn't suspect anything. She thinks she's helping me the kitchen. Suddenly doesn't feel like mine anymore. Like I've been standing in someone else's house this whole time and just didn't know it, because I didn't just let my brother stay here. I let him learn exactly how to take it. Ryan called me the night everything with Jessica fell apart. Not dramatic, no yelling, no anger. Just empty. "I don't have anywhere to go," he said. "I didn't think. Come here. No conditions. No timeline. I didn't even ask how long temporary meant." The next morning, he showed up with 2 suitcases and that taped-up box. Same height, same build, but something about him felt smaller. Like he was trying not to take up space. "I'll stay out of your way," he said. I laughed. "It's my place. You're not in the way." That was the first mistake. The first week he was almost invisible. Up early, gone before me, back late. He cleaned dishes that weren't his. Folded things I hadn't touched. Kept his door half closed like he didn't belong there. If anything, I felt guilty, so I made it easier for him. Extra food. Covered bills before he could ask. Told him to stop worrying about groceries when I saw what he was buying. "You don't have to do all this," he said once. "It's not a big deal." That became my answer for everything. Not a big deal when he stopped offering to help with bills. Not a big deal when his laundry mixed into mine. Not a big deal when his things stopped having a place and just became part of the house. It didn't happen all at once. That's why I let it happen. By the second month, he stopped asking. He'd open the fridge and frown. "We're out of milk." I noticed. Of course I did, but I kept explaining it away. He just went through a divorce. He needs stability. So I gave him mine. The first time I tried to set a boundary, it came out softer than I meant it to. "Hey, just let me know before you bring people over." He didn't look up. It was just Mark. "I know, You're making it weird, Em." I stopped. Not because of what he said, because of how easy it was for him to say it. "It's temporary," he added. "You're acting like I'm moving in permanently." I nodded. Let it go. Because arguing with someone who has nowhere else to go feels cruel. And that's the part no one warns you about. When someone moves in because they need help, it doesn't stay your space for long. The power shifts. Quietly. Until one day you're standing in your own home, wondering if you're allowed to ask for something as simple as a heads up. Because they've already decided you're the problem if you do. By the third month, it wasn't just the house that felt different. It was the way people spoke to me. It started small. My mom called one evening, her voice carrying that careful tone she uses when she thinks she's being neutral. "How's Ryan doing?" "He's okay," I said, still figuring things out. A pause. Then, "He said things have been a little tense over there." I frowned. "Tense how?" "Well, he didn't go into detail, just that you've been stressed." "Snapping a bit?" I actually laughed at that. Not because it was funny, because it didn't make sense. "I'm not snapping," I said. "I just asked him to give me a heads up before bringing people over." Another pause. Longer this time? "Emily, he just went through a divorce. You know how fragile he is right now." There it was. Fragile. Like that explained everything. Like that automatically made me the one who needed to adjust. I didn't say anything harsh, I added, quieter now. "I'm just saying, maybe give him some grace." Grace. I ended the call feeling like I'd missed something. Like there was a version of me being discussed somewhere that I hadn't met yet. A few days later, my aunt texted me out of nowhere. "Be patient with your brother, he needs you right now." I stared at the message longer than I should have. I hadn't told her anything. I hadn't told anyone anything. So how did she already have an opinion? That night, Ryan came home later than usual. I was in the living room, laptop open, trying to finish some work I couldn't focus on. You ate? I asked without looking up. Yeah. A beat passed. Then he added, You didn't have to wait up. I wasn't. Silence settled for a second. Then he dropped his keys on the table and said, almost casually, You know, Mom called me today. I didn't respond right away. She's worried about you, he continued. That made me look up. About me? He shrugged, like it wasn't a big deal. Just said you've been under a lot of pressure. Work, life, everything. I felt something shift in my chest again. Not confusion this time. Something sharper. What exactly did you tell her? Nothing, he said quickly. Too quickly. She asked how things were. I said we've had a few tense moments. That's it. A few tense moments? I repeated. He sighed, like I was proving his point just by asking. See? This is what I mean. What do you mean? You take everything and turn it into something bigger, he said, shaking his head slightly. It's exhausting, Em. There it was again. Not loud, not aggressive, just positioned. Like he was the one dealing with something difficult. I asked you one question, I said carefully, and I answered it. He shot back, already losing patience. I don't know why you're making this into a thing. That line landed differently this time. Not confusing. Because suddenly, I could see it, not clearly yet, but enough to feel it. Every small moment, every conversation, somehow they all ended the same way. Me explaining, him reacting, me stepping back, him staying comfortable. And outside of this house, a version of me was forming. One where I was stressed, difficult, unpredictable. While inside this house, he was calm, patient, the one dealing with it. I closed my laptop slowly. Okay, I said, that was it. No argument, no defense. He looked at me for a second, like he was waiting for more. When nothing came, he just nodded and walked past me, completely at ease, like he'd just won something small, and knew there would be more. The first thing that felt off wasn't even obvious. It was a piece of mail. I almost threw it out with the rest. Ads, bills, things that didn't matter. Until I saw Ryan's name printed cleanly across the front. Not handwritten, not temporary. Official, I stood there for a second longer than necessary. Ryan, I called out when he walked into the kitchen later. You got mail. He didn't even look surprised. Just took it from my hand, glanced at it, and said, Oh yeah. That was it. No explanation, no hesitation. Just, yeah. Something about that sat wrong with me. Since when are you getting stuff sent here? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. He shrugged, already opening the envelope. It's easier. I needed a stable address for some things. Some things. What things? He exhaled through his nose, like the question itself was unnecessary. Paperwork, banking, stuff from the divorce. It's not a big deal. There it was again. Not a big deal. I nodded slowly, like I accepted that. But I started noticing more after that. More envelopes, different senders, not just random letters, official ones, bank statements, insurance documents, even something that looked like a government notice. All addressed to him, all coming here. And the way he handled them, it wasn't temporary. He didn't treat them like something that needed to be redirected later. He sorted them, stacked them, filed them in a folder he kept in the living room drawer like it belonged there. Like he belonged there. The shift in his behavior got harder to ignore too. He stopped knocking before entering rooms, started leaving things exactly where he wanted, not where they should go. One evening, I came home and found him on a call at the dining table, laptop open, documents spread out in front of him. He looked up briefly when I walked in, then went right back to talking. Yeah, I've been residing here full-time since March, he said, tone calm, practiced. All my documents reflect this address now. My steps slowed, residing, not staying, not temporarily living, residing. I didn't interrupt, just stood there long enough to hear him say, yes, it's my primary residence. Something in my chest tightened again, but this time it wasn't confusion, it was clarity starting to form. Because that wasn't a slip, that was language. Careful, intentional, repeated. And suddenly, every piece of mail, every casual we, every dismissed boundary didn't feel random anymore. It felt like steps, like he wasn't adjusting to my life. He was documenting his place in it. I walked past him without saying a word. And, for the first time since he moved in, I stopped seeing him as my brother who needed help and started seeing him as someone who was getting comfortable enough to stop pretending. I didn't confront him. That was the first real decision I made. Not because I was unsure anymore, but because I finally understood that whatever this was, it wasn't something I could argue my way out of. So I stopped reacting. I watched. A few days after that call, I came home earlier than usual. The house was quiet in that strange, paused way, like something had just been happening and stopped. Ryan wasn't there. His laptop was open. He'd never done that before. For a second, I just stood there, not moving, not touching anything, just looking at the screen like it might disappear if I got too close. Then I stepped forward. It wasn't locked. The first thing I saw was a document. Not random, structured, clean, like it had been edited more than once. At the top, in bold, proof of residency. My fingers didn't move right away. I just read. A list of dates, utility references, copies of documents scanned in, bank statements, mail confirmations, even notes. Small, organized notes tracking when each record had been updated to this address. My address. Every detail was there, timed, layered, reinforced, not rushed, built. There was even a section labeled Duration of Continuous Residence with bullet points underneath, statements phrased carefully, repeated patterns, language that sounded like it had been practiced out loud before being written down. I have been residing at this address full-time since. I stopped reading after that, not because there was nothing left, but because I'd already seen enough to understand what the rest would say. This wasn't survival. This wasn't someone trying to get back on their feet. This was someone building a position. In my house. Using my space. Using my silence. A small sound from the hallway made me step back instantly. Heart steady, face already neutral. Ryan walked in a second later, keys in hand. He glanced at me, then at the laptop, then back at me again. Just for a second. Something passed across his face, not panic. Calculation. You're home early, he said. Yeah. Neither of us moved. Then he walked over, closed the laptop without rushing, and set it aside like it didn't matter. Like I hadn't just seen what I saw. Like it was still small enough to dismiss. It's just paperwork, he added, almost casually. I held his gaze for a second longer than usual. Then I nodded. Okay. That was it. No questions, no reaction. Because in that moment, something shifted completely. He thought I was still behind, still confused, still trying to understand. And for the first time since this started, I let him think that. The recordings weren't obvious at first. They didn't need to be. It started with something small, my own voice, faint and distorted, coming from his room while his door was slightly open. I had just walked past, not even paying attention, until I heard a sentence I recognized. My sentence. I just want a heads up before people come over. I stopped. Not fully, just enough for my body to register it before my mind caught up. Then his voice followed. Clearer, controlled. You see how she talks to me? Silence. Then the recording cut. I kept walking. Didn't turn around. Didn't pause again. Just moved like nothing had happened. But something inside me had already locked into place. That night, I waited until he left. Not long he'd started going out more often, casually mentioning things like meeting someone or clearing his head. I didn't ask. I didn't react. As soon as the door shut, I went straight to his room. I didn't rush. Rushing is what people do when they're unsure. I wasn't unsure anymore. His laptop was gone this time, but he'd left something else behind. A small device on the shelf near his bed. It looked harmless. Could have been anything. Until I picked it up. A voice recorder. Not hidden, not even well placed. Just there. Like he didn't need to hide it anymore. I turned it on. A list of files appeared. Dated. Organized. Labeled. Some were just numbers. Others had titles. Kitchen argument. Late night conversation. Tone shift Emily. My thumb hovered over the screen for half a second before I tapped one. My voice filled the room. Tired. Slightly tense, but controlled. I'm not saying you can't have people over. I just... Cut. Then his voice. Separate. Added later. She gets like this. It's unpredictable. Another cut. Another clip. This time, it was me asking about the mail. Again, cut, edited, rearranged. Every piece of me stripped down to fragments. Every response framed. Every pause removed. Not conversations, evidence. Manufactured. I set the device back exactly where I found it. Same angle, same position. Then I stepped out of the room and closed the door quietly behind me. No shaking hands, no panic. Just clarity. Because now I knew exactly what he was building. A version of me that didn't exist. And the worst part, he wasn't hiding it anymore. He was refining it. I walked back into the living room and sat down, staring at nothing for a few seconds. Then I picked up my phone, not to call him, not to confront him, but because for the first time since this started, I wasn't reacting anymore. I was getting ready to move first. The notice came on a Thursday, plain envelope, my name typed cleanly across the front. No return address I recognized, just a legal office. I opened it by the door, didn't even make it to the kitchen. The first line was enough. Notice of claim regarding residential interest. I didn't read further. I already understood. Not every detail, but enough. He'd filed something. Something with a deadline. I read it again. Slower this time. Careful language. Continuous residence. Contribution. Implied agreements. Occupancy rights. References to documentation. Documentation I had seen. Documentation he had built. Then the only line that mattered. Response required within 14 days. 14. Not something I could ignore. Not something that would fade if I waited. 14 days before this stopped being contained inside my house and moved somewhere decisions get made. I folded the paper once, set it on the table, then I sat down, not overwhelmed, just thinking. Ryan came home an hour later, same routine, keys down, shoes off. Calm. Like nothing had changed. Like he hadn't just escalated this into something legal. His eyes went straight to the envelope. He knew. You opened it? He asked. Yes. A pause. Then a small nod. It's just a formality, he said. My lawyer told me to secure my position. It doesn't change anything between us. Secure my position. Between us. No attempt to soften it. You're making it bigger than it is, he added. This is just how it works. I didn't answer. I just looked at him long enough for the silence to settle. Not tense. Not emotional. Just finished. I'll handle it, I said. He studied my face for a second, like he was looking for something that wasn't there anymore. Then he shrugged. Yeah, that's probably best. No hesitation, no concern, just certainty. Because in his version of this, everything was already in motion. The documents, the recordings, the story. He thought I was behind. Still reacting, he had no idea I'd already stepped out of it. The next morning, I sat across from Daniel Brooks. No explanations. No emotion. I handed him the notice. Then everything else? Photos? Timestamps? Details that meant nothing alone and everything together. He read without interrupting. No reaction. No rush. When he looked up, his expression wasn't surprised. It was precise. How long has he been doing this? Long enough to think it would work. A small nod. He's building a position, Daniel said. But he made a mistake? What mistake? Daniel held my gaze. He thinks you're still responding to him. A pause. We're not going to respond. Something in my chest settled. Then what are we doing? His tone stayed even. We let him finish. And for the first time, that made perfect sense. Daniel didn't move fast. That was the first thing I had to adjust to. Everything in me wanted to act, file something, respond, push back before Ryan could take another step. But Daniel shut that down in the first 10 minutes. If we react now, we play inside what he's already built, he said. Right now, he thinks he controls the narrative. We let him keep thinking that. So I did something I hadn't done this entire time. I gave Ryan exactly what he expected. Nothing. No confrontation, no tension. No change in routine. If anything, I became easier. I stopped asking questions completely, stopped correcting small things. Even let a few things slide that I normally wouldn't have, just enough to make it look like I'd settled back into that same pattern he'd been using against me. He noticed. Of course he did. The first few days, he watched me more closely, like he was waiting for the reaction that never came. But when it didn't, something in him relaxed. You could see it in small ways. He started taking calls in the open again, left documents out longer than before. Once, I walked past the dining table and saw a printed draft. His name, my address, and underneath it, claimant statement. He didn't even flip it over when I walked in. Just kept typing like it didn't matter if I saw it. That was the shift. He stopped hiding, because in his mind, there was nothing left to hide from. Meanwhile, Daniel and I were building something quieter. Not big dramatic evidence, just precise corrections. Property records, proof of sole ownership, payment histories showing every bill, every tax, every expense tied directly to me. No shared accounts, no transfers, no contributions from him, nothing that could even suggest overlap. Then came the part Ryan didn't think about, the recordings. Daniel didn't even look impressed when I told him. Good, he said. I frowned. Good. He thinks edited audio works in his favor, Daniel replied, which means he'll use it. And we'll ask for the originals. That was it. No long explanation, no dramatic reveal, just a quiet shift in direction. Because if Ryan submitted those recordings, and he would, they wouldn't stay edited, they'd be examined, expanded. Context restored, everything he cut out would come back. And suddenly, those controlled selective clips wouldn't show instability. They'd show intent. His. A week before the deadline, something else changed. He got comfortable enough to say it out loud. We were in the kitchen, nothing serious, just a normal evening. He leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching me for a second before speaking. You know you can't just ask me to leave anymore, right? I didn't react, didn't even look up immediately. He let the silence stretch, then added, It's not like before. I set the glass down slowly, then looked at him, not confused, not defensive, just steady. Okay, I said. That was it. No argument, no pushback. Just acceptance. And for a second, just a second, something flickered across his face. Not doubt. Not yet. But something close to it. Because that wasn't the reaction he'd built for. That wasn't the version of me he'd been recording, documenting, presenting. And deep down, he felt it. He just didn't understand it yet. By the time the deadline hit, everything was ready. Not rushed, not reactive. Placed exactly where it needed to be. Ryan filed his claim with confidence. Submitted his documents, included his recordings, built his narrative, and walked into it believing he had already won. Daniel just glanced over the final file once before closing it, then looked at me. Now, he said calmly, and this time, we weren't stepping into his version of the story. We were replacing it. Ryan walked into it like nothing could touch him. You could see it in the way he sat, relaxed, almost casual, like this was just a step he had to go through before everything settled in his favor. His file was organized, his statements were clean, his voice when he spoke carried that same controlled tone I'd been hearing for months. Measured, reasonable, calm. I've been residing there full time, he said. I've contributed where I could. I just want to ensure I'm not displaced unfairly. Displaced, like I was the one trying to take something from him. I didn't interrupt, didn't react, just sat there hands folded, letting him finish building it. Because that's what Daniel told me to do. Let him finish. When it was our turn, Daniel didn't rush either. He started with the basics. Ownership, documentation, payment history, every record clean, every timeline aligned, nothing dramatic, just facts. Ryan didn't even look concerned at first. He'd expected that part. Then Daniel shifted. Your submission includes audio recordings, he said calmly. Edited excerpts, specifically. Ryan nodded once. Confident. Yes. To demonstrate a pattern of behavior. A pattern? Daniel repeated. Then he placed a small device on the table. Same model, same kind. We requested the original files, Daniel continued. Full recordings, unedited. That was the first crack, not visible to anyone else, but I saw it. That tiny pause before Ryan spoke again. They're contextual, he said. The excerpts show what's relevant. Daniel didn't argue, didn't push, just pressed play. My voice filled the room first, clearer this time, not cut, not rearranged. I just want a heads up before people come over. That's it. No tension, no instability, just normal. Then silence. Then Ryan's voice. different from the version he'd submitted. Not calm, annoyed. "You're making it weird again, Emily." The recording kept going. More than he expected. More than he prepared for. Conversations that showed sequence, tone, context. Every piece he had trimmed out, placed back exactly where it belonged. And slowly, the version of me he built started to fall apart. Not loudly, just precisely. Daniel didn't even need to say much after that. "Selective editing undermines the reliability of submitted evidence," he said simply. Ryan tried to recover. Shift it. Reframe it. But it didn't land the same anymore. Because now the control was gone. Then came the final part, the one Ryan never saw coming. Jessica. She wasn't there physically, but her statement was submitted quietly, timed perfectly. A detailed account of similar behavior during their marriage. Address manipulation. Financial positioning. Narrative control. The same pattern, different house, different person. Same method. Ryan's lawyer went still. Didn't argue, didn't object, just leaned in slightly, reading faster than before. Because this wasn't a misunderstanding anymore. This was repetition, intent, and patterns don't defend themselves well. Ryan's posture changed. Not all at once, but enough. His shoulders tightened, his hands stopped resting easily. For the first time he looked at me, not confidently, not casually, like he was trying to find something familiar, something he could still use. "You didn't have to do all this," he said, quieter now. "We could have handled it differently." There it was, that shift. Not accountability, just retreat. I held his gaze, didn't lean forward, didn't explain, just said, "You're making it weird." The exact same tone, the exact same calm. And this time, he felt it, really felt it, because now he understood what that line actually did. The rest didn't take long. His claim collapsed, not because of emotion, because it didn't hold. No financial contribution, no credible residency basis, manipulated evidence, pattern of behavior, everything he built, undone by the parts he thought he could control. He tried once more outside. Caught me just before I left. "Emily, just wait." I stopped. Not turning fully, "I didn't think you'd take it this far." I didn't respond. He stepped closer. "We're family." A pause. Then, softer, "I needed time." I looked at him then. Really looked. And for the first time since he walked into my house, I didn't see someone who needed help. Just someone who used it. "You had time," I said. That was it. No anger, no explanation. Just the truth. I left him standing there with everything he tried to secure. Gone. No claim, no control, no narrative, and no one left to support it. Because even his own lawyer had stepped back. And Jessica, she didn't just stay silent. She made sure the pattern didn't end with me. I went back to my house that evening, unlocked the door, stepped inside, and for the first time in months, it felt like mine again. Not because I won something, but because I removed what didn't belong.